Let's freaking go! LSU football fans, we have so much to get to today. I saw something on the interwebs that Pro Football Focus did not have Brian Kelly in their top 5 coaches in America. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but today I want to focus on Kyron Lacy. I've seen a strong social media push from LSU football for Kyron Lacy. He was mic'd up recently at practice. He is loved by a lot of people in that building. And look, he is a transfer from Lafayette. So this is a young man that a lot of people in the 337 want to see succeed, coming over from the Raging Cajuns. And look, we like to see second-year breakouts at LSU, right? So in the chat right now, type Y for yes, type N for no. Do you believe Kyron Lacy will be a top 4 wide receiver on this team next season? Now, notice I said top 4. I'm giving him a little bit of wiggle room. On the poll question, is Kyron Lacy going to be the 3rd best wide receiver on this team? Feel free to type yes or no. Feel free to pick Aaron Anderson. Feel free to say Shelton Sampson in the chat right now. And look, my guy Branson Cat North End Zone says no. John Sibley, good to see you. Rob says yes. This old vet says yes. LA Mom wants all of our guys to succeed. I am of that nature as well. And let's have a very fun Tuesday night live stream. Good to see you, Matt Gerano. It's been a while. Now, tonight, we're going to do something that we did in our past live stream. If we get $100 in super chats, we will give out this Terrence Tolliver card to someone in the chat room. We recently gave away one of my favorite cards. I'm still waiting on address from Chance to send this one. We gave this one out. This Todd Kinchin God Rules card to Chance. I'm still waiting on the address to send this card. And I finally got this. I'm sending this one out to a loyal PHLer as well, a Mason Smith purple. So I love giving away my stuff. Sometimes I randomly just send cards out on the free. But if we do get $100 in super chats, I'm going to give away my favorite Terrence Tolliver autographed card that I have in my collection, because we're talking about underrated wide receivers. We know Brian Thomas Jr. is likely to have a good season next year, and we know Malik Neighbors is a very elite wide receiver prospect. So pretty excited to talk about this today, because a lot of you are super high on Aaron Anderson, a lot of you are super high on Kyron Lacy, and a lot of you are super high on Shelton Sampson. I saw LA Mom mention Landon Ibieta a little bit earlier. So let me know, LA Mom, in the comment section what you like particularly about Landon Ibieta's game. I'm very curious. We still don't know a whole lot about him at the college level because he was very banged up, but he did get to see some action in the bowl game, including getting a catch in that bowl game versus Purdue. Also tonight, LSU baseball taking on Tulane. You guys keep me updated if there are any score changes. I thought LSU baseball got everything done. I know they were leading before this live stream began. So pretty excited to see them take care of business versus Tulane tonight in the 504. Also, NBA playoffs have just tipped off. And, of course, something else that is very important in LSU sports world, LSU gymnastics going on, LSU softball's going on. It's crazy time to be an LSU football fan. So we are moving closer to the spring game. We are 11 days away. We also got some news today that Major Burns will not be available for the rest of spring, but we should be seeing Greg Brooks back in action pretty soon. So a lot to get to. Not a whole lot of time. You guys know these live streams will be over before you even know it, even though we go for hours at a time, baby. Let's freaking go. So super excited to chat anything and everything LSU football with you this evening. I played against Landon a bunch in high school, according to Branson Cat here. He's fast, but his route running was never incredible. If he proves there, he'll be great catching in traffic too. Yeah, he's definitely got the speed to play at a high level. The change of direction and all of that, though, and the speed of play, though, is very different than that in high school. So, yeah, I liked Landon coming out. I didn't necessarily love him, but once again, as you guys know from watching me over the years, I am very hard when it comes to predicting LSU wide receivers. I don't like to say so-and-so is a good player unless I really feel that way. And Shelton Sampson was the one wide receiver of the 4 high school guys that they brought in that really blew me away. I didn't necessarily view him as elite, but he was very, very, very good. So there you go. Also, something else to point out is I was also pretty high on Kyle Parker coming out. And he right now is working with the second team unit as the second team slot wide receiver. And if we're going to talk about Kyron Lacy, also got to talk about Aaron Anderson, who is also a transfer coming in from Alabama, the former 5-star from New Orleans. So pretty excited to talk about each and every one of these prospects. So freaking pumped up to do it. Now, as a lot of you know, recruiting rankings don't always necessarily reflect how I view prospects, but they do, for the most part, get it right. Okay, so I know we like to pile on 247 and all those guys, but you take a look at the top 7 LSU, I say top 7, the last 7 top 100 wide receivers that have gone on to pick LSU as their school that were top 100 wide receivers coming out of the state of Louisiana. All of them have gone to the NFL and have played in the NFL. And on average, if you're a top 100 wide receiver, I believe 2 out of every 3 end up making the NFL. So if that is the case, then don't forget about a guy like Chris Hilton. Obviously, Aaron Anderson fits that threshold. Shelton Sampson also fits that threshold. And historically, top 100 players do hit at a higher rate than other 4-star prospects that are outside the top 100. Normally, I like to look at the top 125 and put a little extra weight on it because recruiting services can get weird with the composite rankings. But yes, I also believe at the beginning of this live stream that it is important to point out that LSU isn't necessarily going to be locked into 11 personnel, which is otherwise known as 3 wide receiver sets. I think you're going to see more 12 personnel. First number meaning the amount of running backs on the field. Second number meaning the amount of tight ends on the field. So if there's 1 running back and 2 tight ends on the field, that means there's only 2 wide receivers out there, which leads me to believe that one of these true freshman tight ends are going to get a lot of reps alongside Mason Taylor next year. And I think Mac Markway is for sure going to play. And I think Kamarion Pimpton is for sure going to play, as Kamarion Pimpton has shot up my board. This has been the case for quite some time. Kind of fell in love with him pretty quickly after LSU turned the heat up and got him to flip from Vanderbilt. I know that sounds very strange. Why was he committed to Vanderbilt? And now he's with LSU. Let's be honest about Kamarion Pimpton. He is a tight end in name only, right? He is a pass catcher. Jackson McGohan is a pass catcher. And Mac Markway is more of your traditional blocking tight end. Even Mason Taylor wasn't a traditional blocking tight end. So I think Mac Markway in particular is going to play a lot next year, and he should be one of your favorite bets to get a lot of true freshman playing time, even if it's just in goal line sets, because last year we saw LSU run a lot of 13 and 14 personnel in short yardage and goal line sets, to the point where Marcus Dumerville the former LSU offensive tackle who transferred to Maryland, he actually moved to tight end at the end of the season and started playing some goal line tight end for LSU. So I think Mac Markway is as sure of a lock to be a true freshman player, but I know he's not in yet, but Kamarion Pimpton, I think, is the real deal. I really do. And he is firmly in my top 5 players offensively or defensively in this class. And I'm starting to wonder if he very well could be the best offensive player that LSU has brought in. So we say hi to Mick Simper. Pierce still believes in Chris Hilton. Tommy, good to see you. I missed you this weekend. Good to see you, John, as well. So there you go. Wide receiver talent is never in short at LSU. You would like to think at least one of these guys takes that next step into stardom. We see it every year at LSU. There's always one wide receiver that kind of steps it up from his current playing level. And I think last year there really wasn't anyone that really shocked us when it comes to taking that next step as a player. But LSU's wide receiver room was deeper than what it was going into this next season. Last year, LSU had probably 4-ish to 5 proven commodities. This year, going into next year, they have 2. Okay, so it's wide open. Whoever wants to take that number 3 role, go right on ahead. Now, Kyren, I think, is a good player. I think a lot of you have some opinions about how that Texas A&M game went. And look, it was not great. It was one of the most disastrous receiving performances, honestly, in recent memory. Those 2 drops were critical. Now, the truth is LSU could have dug out of it, and it's just me being honest here. They still probably should have dug out of it and won that game. It wasn't mostly Kyron Lacy's fault that LSU lost that game. It was the defense and Jaden Daniels' poor play in the third quarter of that game that eventually cost LSU that game. So they could have dug out of that hole that Kyron was in part that his drops put them in. But the truth is, you got to catch those balls. You just do. Your number 3 guy has got to be reliable at the very least. It is one thing for Malik Neighbors to drop a pass because he is going to make other plays. He gives you that special quality. For Kyron Lacy, it's just hard for me to see him taking that next step into being a special player. But that's not what LSU needs him to be. They just need him to be a good, reliable player, right? Think Kadron Boone. Think maybe someone else that wasn't truly special. Maybe, just maybe. Well, it's kind of hard to think of someone that is truly not special that has been a good wide receiver at LSU. Maybe a Traven Durrell, but I thought he was pretty good in my estimation. Just depends on what your definition of special actually is. But you just need him to be solid next year alongside Malik Neighbors. So we shall see. I think Kyron's going to get a long leash for that number 3 spot. But once again, Aaron Anderson, they gave him the number 1 jersey number. Okay. You don't just give Uno to slouches. I am a believer in what Deion Sanders had to say about single-digit numbers, especially number 1. You got to earn it. And they gave it to Aaron Anderson. So they must think he is really freaking good. I know my good buddy Blake Ruffino thinks Aaron Anderson is him. So, yeah, we shall see once he actually gets the opportunity to get healthy and join the team in the summer. So good to see Rico back in here again. Good to see Chance. Don't forget, Chance, shoot me an email with your address so I can send you your card. I was ready to ship it out today. So there you go. Now, something else I will reveal. This guy has been a big part in helping grow PHL. Tory James. Type Y for yes, type in for no if you can remember this young man. This card is actually going to Branson Cat. He loves him some Tory James, so I'm going to send him this card. I actually got this one in the mail today. So there you go. I love people that love their deep cut LSU athletes. Not many LSU channels give out football cards, and not many people give out Todd Kinchin football cards. And tonight, once again, if we get to $100 in super chats, one of you will get a Terrence Tolliver card. Also, adding to that super chat total, if you get you some PHO merch, go right on ahead. And look, I'll also say this. If you join the Patreon, only $9.99 a month, I will send you this Terrence Tolliver card. Okay? So, let's see. All right. Let's see. A lot of it's on the quarterback as well. You know, Jaden has got to take that next step. And Brian Kelly brought up today that he has seen Jaden work harder to push the football down the field. Once again, what we see publicly in practice is not what everyone sees. Obviously, a lot is not shown. You don't see a lot of the scrimmage portion of practice, and it's not quite scrimmages, but one-on-one drills and so on and so on. So there you go. Now, here's something else that I'm going to bring up here as far as LSU is concerned, all right? It is pretty clear, all right, that LSU is being overly cautious with their athletes, okay? I think I wouldn't be too worried about the health of Mason Smith. It makes sense that they're taking the time with him. I know I've pushed out a lot of Mason Smith content recently. Really excited about him going into next year. I am also a nerd for defensive tackles. That is my favorite position on the field. So once again, I want Mason to be great. He is as talented as anyone that I've seen at LSU. So if it all comes together, it's going to be very special. And I still think this is something to keep an eye out for, right? You know, I was asked this last night on AYS. I've been asked this even today. They said, hey, did you think about this anymore if LSU has the best offense in the SEC? And right now, I would say that they do. I would. You know, I thought about it. I think, obviously, Georgia, when you have Brock Bowers, you're always going to have one of the college football's best offenses. He is truly that big of a difference maker. And obviously, Georgia's got a lot of other pieces. I think Branson Robinson is going to be a really good back for them next year. So obviously Alabama is always going to be in the mix. They're making a lot of noise about this Milroe and Ty Simpson battle. Tommy Reese, now the offensive coordinator at Alabama, not in love with their offense, not necessarily in love with Jalen Milroe, but they'll still be pretty good. I think Arkansas with KJ Jefferson coming back, Dan Enos comes back, he reunites with Sam Pittman. We'll see. But, you know, for me, I think LSU is probably that offense, right? That offense that you are going to have to worry about. Now, there are other offenses, including Tennessee. Let's go to Prez right here. Tennessee's style of offense will always make them top 2 or 3. I like that way of thinking, as many of you know. One of my boldest predictions last year was the Tennessee Revolution last year. They were arguably the third best team in the SEC. Actually, I don't think it's arguable. I think behind only Georgia and us, they were the third best team, and you can make a case for them being number 2 because they did beat us head up. But yeah, Tennessee's offense, they got Joe Milton coming back. You know, they're going to be able to run the football. The issue for me, I know, you know, Ramel Keaton is going to be one of their dudes next year, Brew McCoy, so on and so on. I want to see this offense without Hendon Hooker and without Cedric Tillman and without Jalen Hyatt. Now, I will say this, okay? If their offense, Tennessee's this year, continues to be the best offense in the SEC, then Josh Heupel firmly moves himself into the list of top 10 coaches in all of college football. He might already be there with what he was able to do last year with the Vols. I would like to see another year of it, but yeah, I am a big Josh Heupel fan to a fault almost, because, you know, you guys saw it last year. going into last year. You saw it on here. You also saw it some on Power Hour SEC. My Tennessee hype was called out by a lot of you, and it's fine. When you make bold predictions, those things happen, and Tennessee ended up being good. Now, they didn't end up winning the East, but I said hammer the over win total. They were good. They were really, really good. So, yeah, I think Tennessee is going to be good again next year. But the defense, obviously their run defense was good. Their pass defense, a little inconsistent. So we shall see. All right. Now, once again, if you want to talk about anything under the sun, we will get to it right away if you do indeed super chat. Once again, it is helping grow this channel. Also, there's plenty of different ways you could support the PHL movement and everything that we do. It is always greatly appreciated that you check out the PHL merch store, baby. PowerHourLSU.com is where you can go. Posted a link right there in the chat for you to take advantage of all this sweet merchandise. And look, even Paul Feinbaum was super thrilled to see me in my PHL hat. There you go. To get a PHL hat, send me a message on Twitter or Instagram at PowerHourLSU. But all other merch, go ahead, get right there. PowerHourLSU.com/shop. And once again, you can be a patron joining at $9.99, or you can get 2 pieces of PHL merch. And guess what? I'm sending you this autograph Terrence Tolliver card, because tonight we're talking about underrated wide receivers, and we'll talk a little bit more about some other underrated wide receivers a little bit later. Okay, now we shall see about top 10 head coaches. So earlier today, Pro Football Focus did not have Brian Kelly in their top 5 coaches. Okay, I am okay with that, right? So, hear me out. Obviously, everyone's list is going to have Nick Saban and Kirby Smart in some kind of order at 1 and 2. And then after that, the spot for number 3 is there for the taking, okay? So, most lists are going to have Dabo Swinney at that number 3 spot, or at the very least in the top 5, okay? A lot of teams, a lot of programs have, well, some guy by the name of Lincoln Riley as their top coach, or one of their top coaches. I think it is very important to include defense if you are going to rate your top 10 coaches. Okay. So, without further ado, the guy that I think is viciously overrated, and I don't quite understand it, is Jim Harbaugh. Okay. So this is a full list via Touchdown Alabama from Pro Football Focus. So there you go. I have a tough time believing Jim Harbaugh is a top 5 head coach in all of college football. You want to put Dabo Swinney over Brian Kelly because of the 2 national championships? Fine. But Brian Kelly is progressive in his coaching mechanics, where Dabo Swinney looks like he's kind of in the mud with this coaching style. It's a little outdated in the minds of many, okay? So I don't quite get the Dabo Swinney love now, right? It does seem a lot of what he preaches is very archaic. Also, something else on this list that is very shocking to me is Ryan Day. I don't see how you have him in your top 10 if this guy hasn't won a national championship yet with what he has had at Ohio State. Now, of course, he has lost close playoff games, but Ryan Day being number 7 over Kyle Whittingham is very interesting. So, type Y for yes, type in for no. This is the full list. Screenshotted it to make it a little bit easier on the eyes. What do you guys think? Is this a good list? Do you agree that Jim Harbaugh is a top 5 head coach? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I gotta put Brian Kelly ahead of Jim Harbaugh. I know Harbaugh has playoff experience, but it matters what you do in those playoff games, right? He got blown out of basically both of them. Got blown out by Georgia, and last year it was close, but they were viciously outcoached by TCU in that game, especially when you see TCU lose 65-7 in the national championship game. So that loss looks even worse. Kyle Whittingham, I think, is a top 10 coach. I'm fine with James Franklin being there. Luke Fickell, we'll see what he could do at Wisconsin. Sonny Dykes, let's see him do something for more than 1 year. I like Lance Leipold, Kalen DeBoer, that's fine. Chris Kleinman, Jimbo Fisher, Mark Stoops. Once again, you guys know how much I think Mark Stoops is arguably the most overrated coach in the sport. Mike Gundy, I think, is very underrated. And, I would probably put Gundy ahead of 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, and of course, 18. Then Willie Fritz, Chip Kelly, Dave Clawson, Mike Norvell, Jonathan Smith. And let's see what the number 25 coach is. Matt Rule, I'm okay with that as well. So you guys let me know about this list. I just have a hard time, number one, putting Jim Harbaugh over Brian Kelly. I get the playoff experience. I totally get what he's done in Michigan. The Big Ten is not the SEC, though. And other than that, I could see Lincoln Riley over Brian Kelly. That's fine. But I think Brian Kelly is a better coach than Dabo is right now. I really do. I really, really, really do. And I understand the national championship thing. I understand it, right? Dabo's won 2 national championships. But what you said about the transfer portal and, committed prospects can't visit other schools and so on and so on, man, he's got to change his approach. So, yeah, I just think it's tough to not put Brian Kelly in your top 5. I really do think so. All my LSU bias aside, I think it is hard. Okay? So we shall see how all of this plays out. Now, if Brian Kelly makes a playoff this year in the SEC, I think you got to really start talking about him being number 3 over all those other coaches, especially if Dabo misses another playoff, which I think he will this year. Okay. So, yeah, I think if Florida State makes a run this year and wins the ACC, then the reign of Dabo might very well should be over. Okay. All right. One more thing. All right. And this is the one thing that I think Michigan fans, if they are watching, I have close friends that are big supporters of Michigan football. My buddy James Yoder. Let me bring one thing up. All right. Part of who you are as a head coach is, what do I have to do off the field that I have to deal with? Which means your ego. Jim Harbaugh is brutal away from the field when it comes to Michigan, okay? Now, I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm not saying he's not interesting. He might be the most interesting coach in all the sport. He's got a great personality, and it adds a lot of liveliness to the world of college football. And I know a lot of people are super high on Michigan because they have beaten Ohio State in back-to-back seasons. So, look, Jim Harbaugh deserves a lot of credit for it. But for 2 consecutive seasons, you have had to deal with, as a program, very real NFL rumors, okay? Now, more so before this past season, but still, you always got to worry about that with Jim Harbaugh. Now, this kind of flew under the radar, but sometimes I feel as if people miss the main quote from press conferences and interviews with Brian Kelly. Okay, so, he did a press conference today, but earlier this week he did an interview with Bussin' with the Boys on Barstool. And what was very interesting was both of the hosts, Will Compton and Trevor Lewan, or Taylor Lewan, excuse me, are the host of that show. And they asked Brian Kelly, would you ever want to go to the NFL? And he unequivocally said no. Now, has Brian Kelly probably drawn some NFL interest in the past? Yes, not quite the same level of Harbaugh. So if the NFL came calling hard at Brian Kelly, then yeah, I mean, it would probably be a little bit more prevalent. But the one thing I really like about Brian Kelly is, well, you don't have to deal with these rumors, right? He's not going anywhere else, folks. If he's not going to go to the NFL, where else is he going to go that is not LSU? Alabama, Ohio State, maybe those two schools, maybe Georgia. I doubt it. I really, really, really doubt it. I think Jim Harbaugh is a major distraction as a coach. So, gotta be honest, I hate that. If I'm an administrator and I'm paying you what they're paying Jim Harbaugh, and every year I got to worry about NFL rumors, what does that do to recruiting? What does that do to team morale? Yeah, you might field a good team every year, but you're in a weaker Big Ten, right? So I got to be honest. I just think Harbaugh is overrated when it comes to being one of the elite coaches in the sport. So yeah, I just think that that's part of it. Lincoln almost lost to Tulane twice. That is a good point, Rico. There you go. So I just think part of that should be part of how you are evaluated as a coach. So yeah. There you go. And yes, this is exactly what I'm referencing. So there you have it. With Harbaugh, you never know. You never, ever, ever know. Now, let's take a look at the poll question here. Which wide receiver will finish number 3 in receiving yards? Kyron Lacy, Chris Hilton, Aaron Anderson. I didn't put the in there. My apologies to Aaron. There you go. Now, I know a lot of you are bringing up Tulane. I'm going to bring this up here, and then we're going to get to super chats. We're going to get to all different types of questions. Feel free to super chat at any time. I do want to bring up this Tulane game, okay? I tweeted this out beforehand. Go follow me at Power LSU if you are active on Twitter. Should LSU play Tulane in football? I think the interesting aspect about the Tulane LSU thing is Tulane could beat us now, right? In fact, when we last played them in 2007, that game was close at halftime. We brought up the Matt Forte game, and he's a very good player, had a very good NFL career. So that's how long it's been since LSU played Tulane in football. And we wore one of my favorite alternate LSU uniforms. In fact, I've loved all the LSU alternate uniforms in that game, but I would love it. I would absolutely love it. But understand, if that did happen, we could lose. We absolutely could lose. I think the only time you should ever fear Tulane is if they actually join a Power 5 conference, and that would be tough, right? They would obviously dig into our recruiting a little bit more if that were the case. But yeah, Tulane's got the sweet uniforms, the green wave, baby. They have some history. And I would love to see LSU and Tulane play again. It's obviously not going to happen anytime soon, though, unless, of course, it is a bowl game. So there you go. Now, chill out, Carter. Tulane ain't beating LSU. They were good last year, right? If they can beat USC, right, they could have a chance, especially Tulane's team last year, right? Pratt, good QB. I mean, they could beat us. I don't think that they will. I don't think that they would. So, yeah. So, I am interested. Let me know if you guys think we should play Tulane. Captain Kenneth, good to see you again. Yes. Forbes, good to see you. Jeremy, what's up? You should feel pretty good about Colin Simmons. Everybody, welcome Jeremy to the channel. Look at the selfie game going on. Yeah, I think if LSU played Tulane on a neutral field, obviously Tulane's offense is better than their defense. Willie Fritz is a very creative coach. LSU would be favored if LSU and Tulane played each other last year in a bowl game. LSU would be favored probably by 3.5, 4.5, right? Tulane was really good last year. They just were. I mean, there's just no other way around it. It's okay if we admit Tulane was a decent team, and they have a good coach in Willie Fritz. There you go. Now, we'll talk a little bit more, Jeremy. Remind me to talk a little bit more about Colin Simmons a little bit later. I do want to shout out Pierce, okay? Now, here's what we're going to do. Type Y for yes, type N for no. I think I'm pretty sure how a lot of you are going to answer this question. Do you believe, okay, and I want you to be completely honest here, Shaquille O'Neal did say on his podcast that Angel Reese is the greatest LSU athlete ever. Okay. That is what Shaquille O'Neal said. Okay. Now, once again, Shaq has a very strong claim to this. And as you guys can see in the back, Pierce standing right behind Jordan and his wonderful wife. He was at the PHL get together. Don't forget our next PHL get together, April 22nd in Bossier City at the free Arclitex Memorabilia Card Show. I think a lot of you are going to say no to that. Obviously, there are a lot that are ahead of Angel Reese. I know she did win the national championship, but Angel Reese is not better than Simone Augustus. Once again, I'll repeat, Angel Reese is not better than Simone Augustus. Now, Angel Reese is still very good. The Bayou Barbie, we don't win the national championship without her. We give a lot of credit to, obviously, Kim Mulkey. She was a big reason why. Bob Starkey was a big reason why. That whole coaching staff, which is really good for LSU, was a big reason why. Kateri Poole, who got Angel Reese to LSU, was a big reason why. But I'm still, and I'll die on this hill. That's perfectly fine. I still think the most outstanding player of the NCAA tournament was Alexis Morris, who got drafted by the Connecticut Sun this past weekend. So I still think it is a tad unclear if Angel Reese was the best player on the team last year. Once again, I don't really care who's the best. LSU won it all. It could have been anyone. I'm going to be happy for LSU to win a national championship in any sport. I want us to chase Texas A&M and their 12 equestrian national championships. I want to win as many as we possibly can. But I understand Angel Reese won the national championship. She gets a lot of credit for that, as she should. But Simone Augustus is going to take truly something spectacular for someone to surpass her on the all-time greatest list. I know she didn't win a national championship. Trust me, I promise you, she would have wanted to win one for LSU more than anyone. And you did see Simone Augustus show up at the national championship and support LSU every step of the way. So you guys see, if you were to poll people that know way more about basketball than me, they'd probably tell you Simone Augustus is the best. Now, is Angel Reese the second best? You can have a very strong argument there. I think most would put Sylvia Fowles there, and then probably Angel Reese number 3 after that. But yeah, I think I disagree with the great Aristotle and his podcast comments today. But I think a lot of you don't listen to Shaquille O'Neal for analysis. You listen to Shaq because he is Shaq. He is one of one. He is Superman, the Diesel, Shazam. Anything you want to say about Shaquille O'Neal, I'm going to love him. I just disagree with what he had to say. Okay? Mondo Duplantis, the greatest ever. Pole vaulting Mondo Duplantis. You can make a case. He is arguably the greatest pole vaulter of all time. So, yeah, I listened to the podcast clip, and Shaquille O'Neal's biggest reference was she was the one basketball player to win the national championship. So, there you go. The Caitlin Cannon has all women's players beat the best. So I don't know if you're calling Caitlin Clark the Cannon or if you meant to say the Cajun Cannon. I think a lot of people would agree Cajun Cannon, the first ever Heisman Trophy winner. But, you know, if a lot of you are going to list the greatest LSU athlete of all time, I think a lot of you would pick this guy who is in my backdrop every single night on PHL. But yeah, you know, you can point to a lot of LSU athletes being the greatest athlete. Is it Pistol Pete? 44 points per game with no 3-point line. Kind of hard to beat that. I mean, that's still redunculous, if you ask me. And he was good at passing, dribbling, all the good stuff. So, now, I wasn't Gary Payton on the defensive end, but who cares about defense? It's all about putting the ball in the basket. And by the way, we talk about the super dads of PHL and the super moms of PHL. I think this is the one thing you should teach each and every one of your kids to do when they are younger. Shoot. Learn how to shoot. If you want your kid to be a Division I basketball player or get a scholarship playing college basketball anywhere, if you want your kid to be a great basketball player, just in general, teach them to shoot. There's always going to be people on a team that can handle the ball. You can teach some people up to play defense, but I see so much college basketball played every year. I am a college basketball PA announcer, and I watch a lot of basketball. Learn how to shoot, okay? If the 7'3" guys can now shoot, there's no excuse for any of your kids to not be able to shoot. So teach them to shoot. Now, once again, you don't have to be like Kobe Bryant maniacal, shoot 5,000 shots a day like the Mamba did or something like that, but teach them how to shoot. Get the practice in. Not everybody's Shaquille O'Neal. So there you go. Carvis is a Kyron Lacy believer. Mike believes Joey Franchise is the GOAT of all time at LSU. So I'll point it out once again. I'll throw it up there. Type Y for yes, type in for no. Is Joe Burrow the best LSU athlete of all time? Rico says Chad Jones needs some love here. Okay. I think this is interesting. Shooting is one of those things that's not as much genetics and more reps and technique. I do agree with this, but it is kind of funny that the greatest shooter of all time, his dad, was arguably the best shooter or one of the best shooters of his era. I remember watching Dale Curry with my dad growing up. What a player. But yeah, I think Chad Jones, who Rico brought up, is very interesting. Kind of making the Bo Jackson argument here. But yeah, you know, it's interesting if you say Joe Burrow is the greatest athlete of all time. You know, one counter argument to that would be true, but there were other athletes that had multiple years of elite play. Okay, so that would be one major counter argument to saying Joe Burrow is the greatest athlete of all time. I do think it is, without reasonable doubt, he had the most impactful single season in LSU history. So I think that is without reasonable doubt. But you can make a very strong argument to say, look, you know, Pete Maravich was elite, not good, not great, elite, one of the best, if not the best in the game for multiple seasons, right? Same thing is obviously true with other LSU athletes. Someone like a Patrick Peterson. Now, this is a very pro Patrick Peterson channel, but he gave you 3 elite years of play. So, there's a counter to that, but I think Joe Burrow is that when it comes to one season, it is hard to argue to the contrary. Okay. Take the jersey down. But yeah, I don't think anyone would argue that. Now, when it comes to single season, if you want to just talk about one dramatically awesome season, then Jamar Chase deserves some credit. And then obviously Tyrann Mathieu would be up there as well as his 2011. I don't think defensively will ever really get touched unless it is Harold Perkins this season. So, yeah, I was pretty excited to see the Harold Perkins mic'd up segment on all LSU social media accounts. So that was obviously pretty good. Now, what's interesting about Burrow is the one thing that makes him super legendary, and I think this is probably the most underrated aspect of Joe Burrow. It's not that he was great in general in 2019. It's just he did not have a single bad game in 2019. I think all the other Heisman Trophy quarterbacks had at least one game where they were just shaky or they weren't at the top of it. What made Joe special was not necessarily the Clemson game or the Alabama game. It's the Ole Miss game was spectacular. The Auburn game was spectacular. I went back and rewatched the Auburn film, and that very well could have been number 1, number 2, or number 3 best games on the season. Now, statistically, that wasn't the case, but our offensive line did not play well at all. They were so bad in that game, and Joe was still able to find a way to get it done with 321 yards passing, pressuring, and some huge runs in that game. You got to factor in as well, our special teams was really bad in that game too. So, Joe was so exceptional in each and every game. So, yeah, I mean, you play the toughest position in sports and you were exceptional in every game, even if it's just that one season. But 2018 was also good. Yeah, he didn't throw for 3,000 yards. Yes, he only had 16 touchdowns. Yes, he had 4 games where in a row that he didn't have a touchdown pass. But then again, our offense was very archaic. Our defense was very good. We played a lot of these knockout, drag out, physical kind of games. We had Devin White, had a great defense. You had the Miami game that was run based, was a pick 6 mixed in there. Mississippi State wasn't doing anything offensively, so we sat on the ball and played defense. And we finally unleashed Joe, and yeah, he might be the GOAT. He might be the GOAT of all time when it comes to all sports. So there you go. I knew Brant Cicada was going to come in with some Fournette. Fournette was averaging 196 a game before Les Miles botched the Bama game. I do think Leonard Fournette's Auburn game was the GOAT performance from an LSU running back. That was truly special. I mean, I think the stats in that game don't do justice what he did in that game. I mean, defenders were catapulting off his body. I've never seen anything like that. So yeah. Danny Girl comes in. I think it's too soon to crown Angel the GOAT. I think if she puts up the same numbers next year, repeats, then the conversation is settled for her, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, heck, back-to-back national championships, it's hard to argue against it. Yeah, I mean, if she does 34 double-doubles again, then yeah, you can make a strong case. Now, What I would say, though, is I don't know. It's tough, right? Because I think LSU women's basketball can be so good next year that they South Carolina their way through everyone. And look, Mikaylah Williams is coming in with a lot of hype. I'm really excited to see this young lady play for LSU. She was the best player in these international tournaments this past weekend. And yes, I am hyping her up in part because of the April 22nd Arklatex memorabilia card show. I will be set up there doing some content from there. I will also have my card set up, and I'm going to be giving away a lot of my stuff there as well. Jeray Jenkins, Patrick Queen, Mikaylah Williams will all be there. Okay. All three of them are going to be national champions at LSU. So there you go. So Grant is a believer in the Mikaylah Williams hype. I like that. I like it. There you go. As soon as Mikaylah Williams suits up for LSU, she's a better athlete than Reese. I don't know. That's hard. That is hard to say. But Mikaylah Williams is a sniper. I mean, she can. She's unreal. Like, if you go back and look at the highlights from the Team USA stuff this weekend, you will be converted, right? So yeah. But I still hold true to this. And I understand Angel Reese is superstar. She's coming back. Alexis Morris was her in the tournament. I think people forget the free throws at the end of some of those games that were close in this NCAA tournament. I love me some Alexis Morris. I really do. I really do. Had a brief conversation with her at the Final Four, and I butchered my selfie with her. I'm going to think about this selfie from now until the end of time. My Kateri Poole one was good. My Alexis Morris one, my heart is shattered. Also thought it was pretty cool. This was said to be earlier by Jordan. I did not know this. I don't think Jordan's in here. I think he's traveling back to New Mexico today. But this was so freaking interesting that her suit that she wore at the NBA draft was her grandfather's tuxedo. I just love that. I freaking love it. I like it when people, share their family's lineage, right? That's so cool. Like for instance, when we got married on the same, not me and Haley, by the way. We got married on the same day that my grandmother and grandfather got married on my mom's side. That I love it when people do that. So shout out to Alexis Morris. That was such a cool story. I didn't know that. I did not know that. Okay. Danny, I love you. I love you. Mikaylah Williams and Adam Miller are not in the same stratosphere of prospects. Now, I didn't watch enough LSU men's basketball to comment on Adam Miller. And I do think, as far as, Williams coming in, I think there might be a little bit of an adjustment because obviously everybody's bigger, faster, and stronger at the Division I level. So I don't think like she's going to step in and just dominate. This is still Angel Reese's team. I think Flau'jae is going to take another step forward, but yeah, I think Mikaylah is really good. I do. I really do. But yeah. And I'm not just saying that about Mikaylah Williams because she is going to be at the show that I'll be at. I'm just saying that, like, for instance, I looked at a lot of her Parkway stuff. I have a really good friend that goes to all the Parkway sporting events. My guy Shane, and he was telling me about her, and he was like, Carter, she's special. I was like, okay, cool. You're dominating Louisiana competition. That's really good. But if you go for, the Team USA, and once again, this isn't the senior Team USA team, but still, you're going up against the absolute best. I mean, they don't miss. Like, women's basketball prospecting is pretty straightforward. Like, for instance, Caitlin Clark was a 5-star. Angel Reese coming out was a 5-star. You look at this UConn run. I mean, Don Staley honestly hit it out the park with the recruiting class after the Jai Wilson year, and that had Zaya Cook, and obviously the great Aaliyah Boston, and they had 4 5-stars in that one class. So, they're really good at picking the best players. Women's recruiting, it's pretty straightforward who the best players are. And if you go and you play against the best players that are all there, and you were clearly the best player out of everyone there, I mean, once again, it's a small sample, but this happened a lot. So, yeah, we'll see. Cole, tell me you're under the age of 40 without telling me you're under the age of 40. Huh? 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 I like Flau'jae a lot. I really do. But, yeah, huh? Huh? I'm telling you, everybody at least 45 and up just spat out whatever they were drinking. This guy said Magic Johnson. Huh? Ah. But yeah. that's crazy. That's crazy. Flau'jae is really good though. He's a really good player. But Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson. Oh man. Now I'll tell you this, I think Flau'jae can drop a hotter bar than Magic Johnson. I like to see her in a rap battle with Damian Lillard. I think that would be pretty good. But yeah. I think everybody's like, Magic. But yeah, let's not do the comparison thing. I'm just still letting that simmer. Oh, we got some Chris Jackson love in here. I gave away pretty much all my Chris Jackson cards. I really like the Hawks tonight, and I wasn't bold enough to actually put my money on where my mouth is. They win. I also like the Timberwolves tonight to beat the Lakers. I took the 8.5. So there you go. Cole said I was joking. Sure. Ha, ha, ha. That's funny. That's funny. Okay. I got to share with you. Normally, these press conference stuff's like super boring, but I do want to point this out. Timberwolves coach Chris Finch on his team. We have fighters. Reporter, literally. Ha, ha, ha. Oh, man. And the Pelicans still lost to that team. The reporter was John Krasinski, not Krause. I don't even know how to say his name. Not the guy from The Office. That's pretty funny. Jared with our first super chat of the evening. Jared, you get to pick the next topic. Go right on ahead, my dear friend. That's funny. The reporter to have the gusto and the wittiness to think of that. So, Jordan, any topic you want to talk about, we'll go straight to it. I say Jordan, Jared. There you go. Chance, who is our latest patron. Thanks to you, Chance. Thoughts on Devin White wanting out of Tampa? As you guys know, I do like the Saints. I won't call myself a Saints diehard, but they are my favorite NFL team. I know everybody wants Devin White to be on the Saints. I don't know if that's the best fit. I really don't. I think the Saints are fine at off-ball linebacker. I think Pete Werner is a fine player. I think Devin White is better than him, but I don't think what you would have to pay Devin White to come over to the Saints. He wants to get paid. You know, he's entering this big contract year. I just don't like dishing out money to an off-ball linebacker if you aren't Fred Warner, right? And as good as I think Devin White is, as much as I like him better than Fred Warner, I just don't know if that amount of money is what you would have to pay him is worth it. Now, once again, if he takes a hometown discount, be my guest. But yeah, you know, Devin wants to get paid. Devin wants to get paid, right? And look, I got to be honest with you, all right? Obviously, there is an overlap with LSU and Saints fans, right? But it's not as clean of an overlap as you think it is, right? And as I think about this more, you know, when you think of the Saints and you think of the players that Saints fans that aren't LSU fans, the players that they probably hate the most, Devin White is up there, right? Obviously, he picked off Drew Brees in that playoff game that broke all of our hearts, and he was phenomenal in that game. And then, of course, we had the Jameis Winston stuff, and the hit, was it dirty, was it not? And then, you know, the comments after that, you know, it's you guys come here for objectivity. Yes, we're all LSU fans. Yes, we would like to see Devin wear the black and gold of the Saints. But at this point in his career, he wants to get paid. And I got to be honest with you, there's not a lot of Saints fans that aren't LSU fans that like him. So yeah, obviously, I think there is a team that will pay him big money. And Tampa is in a rebuilding mode. And right now, they have one of the older rosters and one of the worst quarterback situations in the NFL. Baker Mayfield is going to be their quarterback next season. Okay. So Jared wants to talk about this, and I am perfectly down. I know you say you don't have topics, but I'll bring it up. You know, I've touched on this on Power Area CC. I touched on this last night, but I'll bring it up here again, okay? Let's call a spade here. The LSU spring format and just college football spring format isn't good, okay? Now, some of you are okay with that, and that's fine. A lot of you like your sports seasons to be very black and white. You like this season to be football season. You like this season to be baseball season. You like this season to be basketball season, and so on. So to have a sport that is, and have a game being played that is out of season, there's quite a few of you that just don't give a rip about spring football at all. I am not one of those people. Obviously, I love football, but I think about the student athlete quite a bit. And I think they would be more motivated for spring football if it ended with something, right? If it ended with a game of some sort. And I think a spring scrimmage would make a lot of sense. 8-minute quarters, 10-minute quarters, don't hit the quarterback. I wouldn't do that. I would be fine with hitting the quarterbacks in. And it not count for anything. I'm totally down with that. I am. Because once again, college football is the only sport where there is no off-season form of game versus another opponent. You're going into the season every year practically blind. And I know a good bit of the roster isn't there in the spring, and your numbers aren't quite there in the spring. It's not something that I think is necessarily the end of the world, but I do think something, even if it's Southern, I would like that. I would love that, actually. So yeah. Having a spring game against real opponents is not realistic with the transfer portal. Teams' rosters are very unstable with players incoming, plus injuries. True. But I don't think the players you would lose in the transfer portal would still have your rosters to where you can't play a game, right? So, yeah, let's just say you have 5 or so transfers that leave at the end of spring. And, on average, you have 15, 20 guys that are coming in the summer, right? So that means 25 of your scholarship guys aren't with your roster. So guess what? You still have 60 players left, which is more than enough to play a game. Now, it might not be your absolute best players, but once again, spring scrimmage doesn't have to be as long as a regular scrimmage. It may only need to be 8-minute quarters. There's plenty of things you could do to work around it. I just like the idea. I really do. I really, really, really do. So, it's not the end of the world. It is not the end of the world if you don't have your absolute full roster. I know more rosters. There's going to be some rosters that are going to be more put together than others. I know that makes it really hard on first-year coaches. I totally get it. But players come here to play games, and they come here to play games versus other teams. And I can't get over the simple truth is the college football athlete plays fewer games than any other sport. Okay. And you should have the opportunity to, in the off season, at least once get an opportunity to hit somebody that is not on your own team. So it's tough. Simple. Let's talk about the Pressy Collection, PressyCollection.com. I love me some Anthony Starr Pressy and the Pressy Collection.kizzle, baby. You guys know what I did with the Pressy Collection, right? I only trusted them with the absolute biggest, most important thing in my life, which is asking my dear beloved wife to marry me in London. Of course, Pressy Collection stepped up for a one-on-one consultation that is totally free. Hit me up, PressyCollection.com, and I'll get you linked up with Anthony Starr Pressy, who, by the way, is an LSU graduate. So you want to check him out. Anthony Starr Pressy and the PressyCollection.com. The spring doesn't matter, but it's good practice. We don't need the actual game, just the practice. So here's my issue with this is this statement in and of itself is contradictory, right? If the spring doesn't matter, but it's good practice, we don't need the actual game, just the practice. So if the spring doesn't matter, then why are we practicing at all, right? I think obviously, and I think I get what you're saying here, Rob, is it matters, but it really doesn't in the grand scheme of things, which I think is at the heart of it. But there's a little bit of truth in what I just said, right? It would give the spring more meaning if you actually did indeed play some type of scrimmage in some type of game. Trust me, you think the Southern Jaguars or Grambling or Northwestern, do you think all these Louisiana schools are saying yes to playing LSU in the spring? You better believe it. You better freaking believe it. So, Rob, I get exactly what you're saying. We should keep the spring as something that doesn't matter at all, So, if it doesn't matter, then why not try a game just to see if we can add more meaning to it, right? So, yeah, I understand it. I brought up off-season 7-on-7 tournaments. I brought up a lot of different things, and I get it. There are a lot of you that do not like this idea. I am perfectly fine with it, though. I'm perfectly fine with it. I did just get an alert here. LSU did get the W tonight in baseball, 11-5. Up next is Kentucky on the schedule. So there you have it. Good job, LSU baseball, getting the job done. Think Tommy Tanks had a big hit today. I would be so on fire about this. A spring 7-on-7 tournament. I love it. I flat out love it. I think it would be so freaking cool. But yeah, here's the bottom line, though, is I don't think it changes anytime soon. I just don't. But you never know. You saw what Hugh Freeze said about it. Now, if Nick Saban and Kirby Smart said, yeah, we should do this, well, you'll have some people really starting to listen. Okay? Now, hat is on backwards. You guys know what that means? Absolutely nothing. Kind of like spring practice. So let's make it mean something. Huh? I actually missed Sunday night's live stream because we touched on a lot of different things. We touched on water tower discourse. I need more colorful water towers in my life. I'm tired of these boring water towers that just have the town name on it. It's not good enough, folks. We need more water tower art, like in Alexandria, Louisiana. Okay? I think Jeremy Hyde asked a little bit earlier about Colin Simmons. Okay, so as time moves on, I am starting to believe that there is a big defensive line coach that is going to be hired at LSU. Okay. Is that going to be Bo Davis? That's been the name that has been floated out there quite a bit. He played at LSU. I don't know. I do think, though, LSU is a very tantalizing defensive line coach position for a lot of good reason, right? Two of the last three defensive line coaches at LSU got huge promotions, right? So Jamar Cain goes to the Broncos. Ed Orgeron got the head coaching job. I don't know what Andre Carter is doing now, but still, he got a great payday that 1 year with LSU. So obviously, you're going to get paid really well. Bo Davis is getting paid really well at Texas, and he's got a really good job there. It does make a lot of sense, though, because obviously Colin Simmons is in the state of Texas, and he actually moved up boards. He is now the number 3 player nationally. I do think I do think he's really good. I do. I've not sat down and watched a lot, but I do see a lot of traits that I like out of a pass rusher, and I think he's really good. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, if you get the opportunity to get this caliber of player, you need to do what you can to get them here. Now, there are a lot of really good defensive linemen in the state of Louisiana. The 5-star McKinley is a guy that everyone has talked about shooting up everybody's boards in the class of 2023. So yeah, we'll see if that, or 2024, excuse me. We'll see if that actually works out. But yeah, Jeremy asked about Simmons a little bit earlier. We shall see. Sure. One thing I do think is very interesting in his recruitment that is important to bring up is the Caden Durham player. He is a very talented running back who is a teammate of Colin Simmons at Duncanville High School, who won their first state championship. Their coach is legendary. He had not won a state championship, though, yet. They win it. It was a very emotional thing for that program, and now LSU is after both of these young men. And I think Caden is actually visiting LSU, if not this past weekend, this next coming weekend. So yeah, it's very interesting when it comes to the Colin Simmons sweepstakes. Now that Jamar Cain is no longer at LSU, I still think LSU is in it, and they would definitely be in it if they were able to get Bo Davis. So we'll see. It honestly doesn't. Sometimes I just put it backwards just to put it backwards. Okay. We got higher ratings than the Lakers and Wolves. Let's go. I'm cheering on the Wolves. I got some money on the Wolves tonight. The plus 8.5. Pressy, good to see you again. Saw you this weekend in person. Shout out to you and your wonderful wife. I have been sleeping more freely lately. But there you go. It's all about that breeze, baby. Yeah, we don't need anybody hurt. That's true. It's true. We got better ratings than the Lakers and Wolves. I like that. So we have hit 100 votes on the latest poll. And here are the results. Kyron Lacy wins the poll. Aaron Anderson, 28%. Chris Hilton, 24%. Very interesting. Okay. All right, this goes out to Jared's super chat here. Poll question is up. There's a hot take. Kyle Parker will finish third in the receiving battle. I actually bet on them after the Gobert, Reed, and McDaniels thing, right? I think sometimes in the NBA, not in a complete series, but just in like a one-game type of scenario, sometimes it benefits a team to lose some players because it forces you to play differently than how you played during the season. And, the Lakers had very little time to scout what the Timberwolves look like without these players. So once again, I don't know the score. I'm not paying attention to it. So yeah, I am, I actually like the Timberwolves more because of it, because what markets tend to do is, Okay, so it was officially announced that Gobert is out, and the injuries and all of that. It forced more people to bet the Lakers, and I decided to go the opposite. And look at that. Early on, 28-22 Timberwolves. Once again, that might not hold. It is the Timberwolves, for goodness sakes, but we all know who the powers that be want to win this game. So there you go. What's up, Amacat? Good to see you. He is a part of the PHL Merch Club, and he is soon to be a part of the PHL Patreon. I know Amacat's going to join tonight. And once again, this goes to anybody. If you join the PHL Patreon tonight, you are getting this Terrence Tolliver card right here. There you go. Yeah, I've been munching on some grilled chicken tonight. We have barbecue chicken. I know I'm supposed to save that for the end, but there you go. What's up, Blaine? Good to see you. See, Blaine is part of the Backward Hats crew. I know Colin Cowherd won't like the backwards hat crew here. I'm normally a forward hat guy. I used to be a Rafael Nadal, Alexis Morris headband guy. I used to wear that on stage. The Flaugier headband. Those feel so good. I'm telling you. Part of why I used to wear that is I have this chicken nugget on the back of my head. It's like a little nub that is back here. And Trey Beatty, who's one of our big not Patreon, but PHL supporters, he actually had the correct name for what these things are on the back of our heads. It's like a little, like my skull has a weird shape back here. That's part of why I wear a hat. That's part of why I can't wear most hats, right? That's why, there was a delay on getting the right PHO hat. You see, these two things right here are doing the most. I mean, let me see how many. Yeah. Because, if you only do one slot, it gets kind of bent. You guys know. So you always got to have two fastened. All right. Mike. The Inthesion. So, yeah, I'll rock the backwards hat from time to time. But what's very interesting, all right, you know what they say about people that have big heads? We know a lot about everything. We're smart. We're talented. But for real, like, there's just not a whole lot of hats that I could wear. You ever see a anklet? Like, like one of those anklet chains around the ankle of somebody with a cankle, someone that is a little bit bigger. You ever seen an anklet on someone like that? That thing is holding on for dear life. It's on there, right? That's what my head is with baseball caps. Trust me, when I take my cap off, my cap whispers thank you, because it is a lot of work to stay on top of this hat. So I got to move to fitted. So if anyone can make a PHL hat fitted, feel free to send it my way. I'm assuming you're predicting Neighbors and Thomas will finish 1 and 2. Yeah, what's interesting? A lot of people, going into last year, what a gazillion % have said Kayshawn was going to be the number 1 receiver, and obviously it was Malik last year. So yeah, you never really know who that number 1 guy is going to be returning. You just don't. You just don't. Okay. All right. So I've been looking. I was looking at Twitter for this photo that I wanted to bring up, but I did want to. I did see this from Brad Powers. Okay. The week 1 line for LSU versus Florida State was just released via FanDuel. All right. So I want you right now in the chat to give it your best guess. What is the LSU line versus Florida State? Okay. And I'm talking about the LSU side of things. Do you think LSU is a 3-point underdog? Type +3. If you think LSU is a 6-point favorite, type -6. I want you in the chat right now to give me what you think that line actually is. Okay. Give it your best guess. All right. So Branson Cat says LSU favored by 3.5. Okay. Just give it your best guess. Let's see how sharp your mind is in the minds of everybody in Vegas. Okay. See, Florida State by 1.5, LSU by 3, LSU by 4.5. Keep them coming. I will reveal the answer in just a second. Let's pull this up right here. King Ulysses, what you doing lurking, man? I don't like a King Ulysses lurk. He used to be our top commenter. But no, King Ulysses is like Danny Girl now. He lurks. FSU flavored. FSU favored by 5.5. LSU 1.5. LSU by 4.5. King Ulysses says LSU by 4. Danny Girl says 2.5. Okay. We'll give it a few more seconds here, and we will reveal the answer. Let's see here. This is one of my favorite photos. Branson Cat with Perk after the Bama game. Doesn't get much better than that. That's what it's all about right there. I love it. This was from the show in Bossier. Really looking forward to meeting more of you. This young man had just got done hitting some homers, so we hooked him up with some PHO merch. Gotta love it. Lots of giveaways for this next show, April 22nd in Bossier. Okay. I like it. The under with house money. Get it? House money. LSU by 3. Okay. So Brad Powers is one of the premier college football betting accounts, and FanDuel Sportsbook has LSU favored by a point. Other lines here, Utah -9 versus Florida, North Carolina favored by 1.5 versus South Carolina, Clemson favored by 11 at Duke, Minnesota favored by 8 versus Nebraska, Penn State 18.5 versus West Virginia, TCU 20.5 versus Colorado, Notre Dame 19.5 versus Navy and Ireland, Miami favored by 17. As you can see, some other interesting games here from Brad in week 1. Toledo, Northwestern, Coastal, Fresno, Virginia, Ohio State at Indiana. I think Virginia at Tennessee is sneaky good in Nashville, but obviously Virginia's coaching hire last year was a disaster. UTSA, South Alabama at Tulane, Boise State, Washington. All right. So I think our only super chatter of the night, Jared, was the closest. There you go. Now, there are a few Fournette's NFL careers not over. It is. I think he's a sneaky good fantasy buy right now, too. Not in Dynasty, obviously, but by the way, Underdog Fantasy, support your boy. Sign up for underdogfantasy.com/promo code Carter. You're helping grow the channel. Okay. So, look, gonna be honest with you. All right. Am I shocked by that line? LSU favored by 1. Not really. A few things about that line. This is the Sunday night primetime game, and people like familiarity. So last year was the Sunday night primetime game as well. Remember, there's no NFL, so everybody is watching LSU versus Florida State in week 1. Also, there's not as many sexy week 1 matchups. Remember last year we also had Notre Dame and Ohio State. We had a few others, Oregon and Georgia. There's not really a whole lot of sexy week 1 games going into this year. So, look, that means a lot of the public is going to be betting this LSU and Florida State line, right? So, you're going to have all the NFL eyes that don't care about college football watching that game on that Sunday night, and you're going to have a lot of the public betting on this game. So there's going to be a lot of action that comes into this. And I also think a lot of people are going to feel burned by betting LSU and the 2.5 and 3 point line in their favor going into this game versus Florida State when the rosters are very similar. Both these teams return a lot. Both these teams return not only their head coach, but OC, DC, and quarterback. So, yeah, I think a lot of money could come in at Florida State for some CLV. So, yeah, I wouldn't go bet LSU just now. I think Florida State is actually going to close as the favorites in this game. I really do think so. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm not betting LSU right now. Not that I don't think we can win. I just think by closing time, I think Florida State is going to be favored. I do. But yeah, I don't think Leonard Fournette's NFL career is over. I don't. Right? I think he's going to go to a contender. I look at some teams that I could see him go to. Obviously, I know a lot of people want to bring up the Saints. I don't see that happening after, Jamal Williams got signed. One interesting landing spot could be the Chiefs. They need another back in that backfield really badly. And Fournette played 16 games last year, right? So, yeah. Now, here's what we're going to do. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to answer as many questions as we possibly can. But I know in my deep heart of hearts that somebody right now is going to join the PHL Patreon. Do not disrespect the greatness of Terrence Tolliver. Once you sign up for the PHL Patreon, I got to ship out a bunch of cards anyway. You are getting this Terrence Tolliver card. Okay? Autograph card. This is my favorite Terrence Tolliver autograph. SP Authentic. They don't even make SP Authentic college autos anymore. It's going to you. So, Blaine, I know you're thinking about it. You're like, God, I would love to have access to all that exclusive content that CB posts in the PHL Discord. I would love to see all the extra film studies. I would love to be a part of the Discord. Chance joined this past week. I know you're going to join tonight. It might not be Blaine. It might be somebody else. Could be you. Could be Amacat. It could be Andy tonight. Do it. Let's go. LSU baseball won tonight. Everybody's in a good mood. Lex Luthor, Alexis Morris got drafted. LaDasia Williams got drafted. talk underrated. LaDasia Williams in that Utah game was cold-blooded. Imicat says at least him and Devin got rings, even if his career is on the decline or over. Yeah, Fournette's lasted pretty long in the NFL, right? Obviously, the NFL career didn't go as planned. Obviously, he came in with this running style at a wrong time. I mean, 10 years ago would probably have fit Fournette's style when it was still a little bit more ground and pound, even 20 years ago. But yeah, I was talking about this with Branson. Leonard Fournette at LSU, we did not have 110-win season with Fournette. Now, that wasn't his fault. That was Les Miles. But yeah, it's kind of wild to really think about, right? Like, so many of these great individual players either didn't get rings or didn't win as much as you probably thought that they did. And it's wild. It's absolutely wild. Like, Kev Falk was putting up numbers on LSU teams that were just, middle of the road. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. It was a lock. This was, if you want to know why I thought the Hawks were going to win earlier. So I love the Hawks +5. I love the Wolves +8. So this happens almost every year. Every freaking year. Okay. They ask all the ESPN writers who is going to win this game. Once again, 5 points isn't much. 8 points is kind of a lot, but these games are mostly coin flips. And all 17 of the people that they polled at ESPN.com, they all picked the Heat. They all picked the Heat. Okay. It would be one thing if the Heat were like the Warriors, which was an 8 seed that kind of snuck in, right? But the Heat aren't really anything, right? They're a few players. They got some good players, obviously Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero. But I mean, that's nothing to really be scared about. So there was no one there. That happens almost every time. When one team is universally picked across the board by all the analysts, the other team is going to win. I'm telling you, it almost happens every single time. So I was like, okay, I'd already liked the Hawks, and they get it done tonight. I don't even think the Hawks are that good. But I was like, it's a Heat. It's not really that big of a point spread. Dejounte Murray has playing experience, as we as Pelican fans know. Now, I did get a message earlier today. This came in from Dan and said, hey, I don't comment much, but I do want you to talk about this Zion Williamson press conference. Now, he sent a pretty long message about this. So I heard the Zion press conference earlier today. Okay. I still love my Pelicans. Still a piece of me that loves Zion. I do think he's going to play for the Pelicans next year. But I thought today's press conference was very troubling. And I understand I get on here and I bicker about the NBA quite a bit. It's because I love it so much. But if you actually go listen really closely to the presser, okay, mental health is a very real thing. And if you don't feel you're mentally ready to go, then don't play, right? But basically, to translate everything that was said in this 7-minute media appearance, Zion said, I will play when I feel like it. Okay? That's basically what he said. He said he's fine. He said it a couple of times over. He's fine physically. The stage doesn't get much bigger than it is now. So it could be one of two things. Number one, he still is really hurt, and he's only just saying this just to sound great. Maybe he's not physically ready to go. And look, that is part of it. All right. There's been a lot of worries about Zion's conditioning. Look, he's a 260-pound freak of nature. We see a lot of these types of athletes, their bodies sometimes aren't able to hold, right? There's been a lot of studies done on Zion's athleticism. You know, we've never seen a shoe explode on national TV. His did. I read a story a long time ago that his jumping power is unlike anything else we have ever seen. But listen closely when this is over to go listen to the Zion media availability. It's on the Pelicans Twitter account in 7 minutes, unedited. Listen to yourself. Listen for yourself. And it was full of a major contradiction. If you are physically fine and you say, I'm not going to come back until I am fully back to being Zion, I understand the mental hurdle of always it being in the back of your mind that you are going to get hurt again. I totally get it. And if that's what's holding him back, sure, go right on ahead. But there is this thing called your team needing you in the absolute worst way. Josh Richardson isn't the answer. Jonas Valanciunas isn't the answer. Larry Nance isn't the answer. There are quite a few players on this Pelicans team that has regressed horribly during the course of the season, including CJ McCollum, who has been asked to be the number one option when it was pretty clear when he signed with the Pelicans that he was signing up to be the number 3 guy at this stage in his career, when his whole career in Portland, he's been the number 2 guy. We could talk about Willie Green's coaching. We could talk about, Dyson Daniels not being as good as a lot of people thought he was going to be as a rookie. But if you don't see what was wrong with that presser, I'm a huge Pelicans fan. I own Zion Williamson cards. I love me some Zion. But it falls on deaf ears when you say, hey, I'm physically ready to go, but I'm not 100% Zion, when you at 25%, you at 10% is better than a lot of these old guys who are a little washed. It's tough. It's tough. Right? So, look, I just think, as Jordan points out, our second super chat, and I really appreciate you still cashing that check. Let's go, Pels. Once again, I understand the NBA media and the Pelicans being a smaller market team. I understand you got to walk on eggshells when talking about the superstars in this league. But it is a problem that when your team is in a playoff scenario, the same team that gave you the max extension, despite you missing most of your career with said team, you say publicly that you physically can go, and we're in a playoff situation. The stakes can't possibly be any higher in the NBA. And we are constantly bashed over the head with the regular season doesn't matter. The players only care about the playoffs. And you don't play. Now, this totally isn't unprecedented. Last year, Jamal Murray was cleared According to Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN, now he could have been wrong. I doubt Woj is wrong, but Woj reported that Jamal Murray was clear to play, and the Denver Nuggets were playing the Golden State Warriors. And as many of you know, in order to beat the Warriors, you can't just have Jokic. Got to have elite guards to beat the Warriors. You're never going to beat the Warriors if you don't have elite guards in the playoffs. Jamal Murray sat healthy on the bench. Now, would Jamal Murray have been 100% even if he had been cleared to play? No. But according to Woj, he was, and he still didn't play. And it's the playoffs. And you already got millions upon millions of dollars. Why are you saving yourself for the future? It's tough. It is tough to not call it what it is. Okay? It's a little soft. And I understand. I am not, you guys know I'm not old man yelling at clouds. You guys know I am pro player. You guys know I'm a big Zion fan. I've gone freakishly crazy over some of the things that he's done and the joyful energy that he plays. And I can't wait to see him in a Pelicans uniform next year. But there's no guarantee that you're even going to be in the play-in next year. The Western Conference is that difficult. You've got to seize the opportunities that are given to you. We need them. We need them right now. We don't have them. So there you go. Okay. But I will say this. Okay. And I do give my fellow Pelican fans out there a little bit more credit. Louisiana sports fans just don't like this type of behavior. You just don't, right? Like, I mean, we've seen the Saints fans sour on Michael Thomas. I don't know what Louisiana professional sports fans have done, but there have been quite a few, just not LSU, but just Louisiana athletes recently that have kind of mailed it in, right? I mean, if I would like to think if it was me in this scenario and I have the opportunity to play in a playoff game and I'm at 50, 60% and these guys have been carrying the team and they were still able to find a way to get us into potential playoff opportunity, I'm going to give it a go. I just think that I would do it. And once again, this is a YouTuber and I'm going to get flamed for this. That's fine. That's okay. Give it a go. Give it a go. But there's a piece of me that thinks the truth is he's not fully healthy. I don't know. I just think that I listened to the press conference 2 times over. It was interesting. But the good news is I know his favorite album is from Notorious B.I.G. So there you go. So what do you guys think? At this moment, Zion is Garfield. That's crazy. A little soft now. This is big time, moist, soft Charmin tissue. Okay. Here's my thing. Okay. Pelicans call Trae Young, get rid of the dead weight. Not a Trae Young guy. I'm just not. You know, I like the Hawks tonight. I'm not a Trae Young guy. And we had Pegasus in here who said this in the last live stream that the Pelicans should go after Luka Doncic or something like that. I don't know. Now, I will say this, okay? A lot of professional athletes are difficult to deal with, okay? I just think the NBA has had an alarmingly high number of diva athletes, and it's just true. And like it's so strange to me. It is so I don't know what it is. I just don't. But a lot of NBAers that have made a lot of all-star teams are headaches, and I honestly don't know what it is. I just don't. Like, you know, you see NFL guys play with so much pain. It feels as if it matters more to NFL players. It matters more to EPL guys, MLB guys, NHL guys. Maybe I'm totally wrong on this. Maybe, just maybe. I don't know. But I think some of it is just the leverage, right? The Pelicans feel as if they should allow Zion to make his own calls because they know, if you make him mad, he'll go somewhere else. I don't know. I don't know. But I think, once again, I think the NBA misses David Stern. I really do. And I wasn't the biggest David Stern fan in the world because of the Allen Iverson stuff, and I'm a big AI guy. Still, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I know I'll probably never get an interview with Zion Williamson after today, but it is what it is. I hope I get to meet him one day. I love him. I really do. I think he does have an interesting personality. I do think he is so much fun to watch. Probably the funnest Pelican ever. And look, the Pelicans have had a lot of bigs with a lot of injury issues, right? Somebody that was in the news today was Boogie Cousins, right? And my dad was a big Boogie guy. Boogie pre-injury with the Pelicans was so freaking good. Like, he was obscenely good at basketball. So, yeah, I mean, the Pelicans have had a lot of good bigs recently. It's just, man, can't get the dubs. Jordan brings up, oh, yes, the Browns fans' frustration with Grant Delpit. I think Grant actually played okay this past year. But yeah, Greedy's also been very hurt. And look, I sympathize with Zion Williamson's injuries, right? It does suck being constantly hurt. But it's just the tease of it all, right? It's just the tease. It is beaten. Who remembers us beating the bejesus out of the Suns earlier this year and the disrespectful dunk at the buzzer? I loved it. But yeah, I'll say a few more things on this. I think AAU culture needs to be revisited. All the games that are played in a short period of time. That's a lot of miles on the body. I think that's something. But yeah, I think, and I know I bring this up a lot on this channel. The NBA is not in a bad place, but it is in a bad place. Like, the league is more international. The talent in the league is truly incredible, but it's still wild to me that players say that they're physically fine, but they don't want to play in playoff games. It's tough. It's tough to hear that, right? Zion and Ben Simmons have similar traits. There's some truth in there. There's some truth. Okay. So there you go. Big shout out to our top super chatter of the evening. That is my guy, Jared Addison. I really appreciate you. Jared and Jordan holding it down tonight. I really appreciate each and every one of you guys. So, got some really cool things coming up on PHL. We're obviously posting more short form content on YouTube, on Instagram, on the TikTok. So, follow at Power Hour LSU on Twitter, on all the platforms. It goes a long way. And we're also on Facebook. So any social media platform, obviously YouTube is our biggest. It will always be our biggest. So please go check it out. Now you can also join Chance and be a part of the PHL Patreon. It goes an absolute long way. And don't forget, get your Power Hour LSU merch. So there you go. I don't think the NBA will ever be co-ed. I think you'll see more co-ed kind of events like during All-Star Weekend. I don't think you'll ever see a co-ed NBA, but I could see a co-ed league, a co-ed 2-on-2 tournament. I think that would, be something out there in the future. But yeah, I think you could see something, but I just don't think it will ever be that. I do think though, Joshua, in the future there will be either at the Division I college level or at the men's level, there will be a female head coach of a men's team. I think that will happen. I know a lot of people think that could be Becky Hammond, so we'll see. Okay, it is Power Hour LSU. Boom. So please keep supporting. It goes a long way. And tonight, as Pressure points out, we are doing some grilled barbecue chicken, baby. Let's freaking gizzo, baby. Let's go.